So first of all, I would like to say a massive thank you to Dr. Linda Mizun and Dr. Erica Lynn, who are joining us from sunny Sheffield. We're so grateful that we have guest speakers who give their time up to help a live audience, and also there's a recorded version that will also be available as soon as we've edited it down. But a massive thank you to both of you. And we're also fortunate that we've got Linda Jones, who's the founder and CEO of Is Fatigue Foundation, with us as well. So I'm going to sort of quite quickly hand over to our afternoon tea with the doctors, and I will post a link to their YouTube channel and their Facebook page as well. But over to you, ladies. So I'd like to hear a little bit about who you are and maybe how you got into medicine in the first place.
Hi everyone, and hello Graham. Hi Annette. It's lovely to see you guys from Berlin. Hi. Oh, hello Laura. We love to get to know everyone. Amanda, Poonam, awesome to have you all here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all. It's such an important topic that we are dealing every day with in our hospitals, and it's also a sensitive topic because there's very little we can do in the NHS, and this is a struggle that we face every single day as clinicians, that we are not able to provide the service that we want. So Erica, what got you into medicine?
I think when I was in school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I always said when I was little that I wanted to be a lawyer, only because my sister said she wanted to be a doctor, and then they were like, oh, you can't have two doctors in the family. So I was like, oh, I want to be a lawyer, but never really interested me. And then when I was doing my GCSEs, I really enjoyed biology, and I like working with people. So I think medicine seemed like the natural route. So that's what got me into medicine. And for me, getting into medicine meant, I think also growing up, you see doctors as, like, for me, kind of like heroic healers, but reality, when I went into medicine, came out of med school, started working in healthcare, that was not the reality at all. And I wasn't healing anybody. Yeah, maybe I saved a few lives, you know, in an acute situation, but I didn't really see my patients get better, especially now that I'm in general practice. People are coming back and back and back with chronic conditions, and we're not able to, with the current resources that we've got, we're not able to empower them to live the best life they can live.
Empower them and actually offer them tools where they can get better, feel better, improve on their fatigue, improve on the underlying root cause of what our patients are suffering from. Because everything, as we dig deeper, we realize is the symptom what we see and we are trying to treat in current medicine, but there's a root cause to that symptom. So one symptom is high blood sugar. One symptom is actually obesity is a symptom of the underlying root cause, but we will go into a little bit more deeper. Another symptom is chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue is something that we see in our current Western society more and more, and it's not because of our patients doing something wrong, but because of the environment around them that predisposes them in the end to feel that way. And this is where we got together with Erica. Very similarly, I got into medicine because of my doctor, father and grandfather, with whom I was very close to, and I loved caring for animals, and that kind of driven into caring for trees and then caring for humans. I actually bandaged a tree when I was 10.
Fabulous.
Now I'm bandaging humans, but I guess the principle was always the same. And we have found each other, actually our passion through this ability to help and the craving to actually make people feel better. Because sadly, as I think all of you can relate, no one is really getting better, right? If you chat would love to hear what you think in the chat. Like, do you think people are getting better? Say yes. If yes, it's if you push 1, and no 2 if people are not getting better. You think you can just chat in the box and let us know, because we'd love to know what your experiences are. And this is where we started afternoon tea, so that we can hear from our patients. So that was a little bit of our story.
And from that, as I said, you've set up your afternoon tea with the doctors, which is an opportunity once every Sunday to be able to share your knowledge and experience, and also some experts in their field, their knowledge and experience. And that's an absolutely wonderful thing, that your mission is to drive the health and well-being of as many people as you can. And we were talking earlier, and we said, even if one person comes to this session, even if one person watches the recording, one person will benefit. And that's fabulous.
Much more than what I do. Well, in emergency medicine, again, we say emergency is great because you give a second chance for our patients. But in chronic management, like in GP, unfortunately, no one is getting better. So if just one person gets better by addressing the root cause of their diseases, that's more than what we do in 10 years of our practice. So we feel fulfilled and grateful for it. And that is the payback to us.
Yeah, the feedback is a lot of people saying that with the right help, people can get better, or that some people aren't getting better. So that's some of the current feedback at the moment on your question. You work as a fantastic team, and the one member of our team that would normally be here to facilitate this is getting some very much well-deserved annual leave at the moment. So that's why I'm having a go at multitasking. My next question, just to sort of, I mean, you've already said something, Linda, that we didn't know. We didn't know you bandage trees, but was just to throw out there, tell us a fun fact or an interesting fact or something we might not know about you.
Ooh, is there something fun about me?
Loads of things fun about you. Come on.
Wow. I don't know, I guess I love philosophy. That's something I secretly crave all the time, and great conversations, and that's something that drives me, and I don't really talk about that, to be honest, openly. And maybe that I rock climb. I'm a rock climber, and I like to go heights and get into dangerous situations that are well within my own abilities but still have that fear factor. So yeah. And you, Erica?
I was really scratching my head thinking about this, and Jane was pushing me before we came on live, and I was like, what is there? What fun things have I done? So I came up with, I was in a TV advert when I was about 7.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Thank you for that question.
Yeah,
that's cool. And what were you advertising? I hope not processed food.
It was camera film.
Oh, great.
That nobody uses anymore.
We can still be friends then.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, if it turned out to be something very, very unhealthy, that could break down all sorts of relationships. So yeah, excellent. Thank you. Now sort of getting to a bit of the nitty gritty, because I know, because I'm really fortunate that I've been on a few walks, because obviously you live what you do, practice what you preach. And on one of our walks with Erica, we talked about some of those sort of case studies where there's been a success, where you've noticed that your intervention has led to positive improvements in chronic condition management. So could you give us an example there?
Should we go through the examples that we have?
Yeah. Let's do that.
To give a little structure, and because to make the most of this time and to really leave you with something, we created a bit of structures around this to show. And Annette and Graham have been our amazing success stories on afternoon tea as well, to spread the story. And we would like to share a little bit more around that, and to understand what do we mean when we're talking about the root causes of diseases, and where we can make important changes that actually fuels fuels the energy that everybody really kind of have control over, that comes from the outside rather than from within. So
what are you seeing on my screen, by the way?
At the moment, we've got the list of your playlist.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why I can't see it.
Cool.
But that's the right screen that we've shared.
Here it is.
There we go.
Here it is. So what we would like to leave you with here is something that we would like to ask you in the chat, if you can. Firstly, do you think that chronic fatigue and other diseases are actually other diseases like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, mental health problems before and after fueled, coronary vascular disease, so meaning strokes, are they the same disease, or do you think they are different diseases? If you think it's the same disease, put 1, and if you think it's different diseases, put 2. Let's have a look. Do you think it's the same disease when we see different symptoms? So symptomatology is what you go to the doctor with. You go, oh, I'm tired all the time, right? When you have heart disease, what are the symptoms, Erica, when the patient comes to us?
Breathlessness, chest pain. In heart failure, we get swollen ankles. Yeah, and things like that. And then the other symptom is, what are we having here? So so it's not the same disease. One person did say, Christine said it is the same disease as most of us on here in the chat, thinking they are different diseases. And Anna and Graham said it's different diseases with a common cause.
Very good, love it, love it. So we want to start with appreciating that the Western disease patterns come out as different, with different symptoms and with different labels. As you can see in our patient success stories, like where Annette and Graham have been, we had patients with obesity, type 2 diabetes, patients in their 60s who transformed their fatigue symptoms. We had type 2 diabetes, again, PCOS, inflammatory bowel disease from episode 39, overcoming ulcerative colitis, internist doctor stopping rheumatoid arthritis, and then also even multiple sclerosis. So if we go to, so if you see, all of these diseases are based on inflammation, okay? So the drive starts with, number 1, insulin resistance, okay? So here you can see insulin resistance in the center to everything that we have listed here, including cancers. So bowel as well as breast cancer are non-genetic driven, or some elements, less than 10% or even 5%, are genetically driven. But on top of it, you need to fuel that cancer, that gene, with the wrong lifestyle to actually get to that cancer. It's the same with type 2 diabetes, as you can see here. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, mental health problems, inflammation in the brain, all of it is driven by insulin resistance. So this is very well why Annette and Graham mentioned they are the same root, but different symptomatology that you can actually see, perceive, and feel. Now, if you just say in the chat, have you heard of this before? Let's have a look. If you have, yes. If you haven't, then no. Then number 2. Let's see if you have seen that, or people have ever heard of this. No. So Laura says no, she hasn't heard of this before. Christine, Helen, Charlie, what do you think? Have you ever heard of this before? Yes? No? Charlie, no? No?
Christine, yes.
Yeah, Helen, yes. Okay, so we kind of have heard possibly that there's an issue with insulin resistance, but we haven't kind of appreciated the gravity of it. So when you get a diagnosis, there's a phase before that, right, Erica? What happens before? Are we able to pick up on this insulin resistance before it becomes a symptom, an actual disease as we know them, like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and so on? Do we pick up on this while it's brewing inside of us, but it's not yet symptomatic?
Maybe some vague symptoms like fatigue.
Fatigue,
yeah.
clouded mind, and if you already have mental health problems due to PTSD in the past, unfortunately, many of us have experienced that. That can be fueled, and what happens with that is you eat the wrong things on top of it, and that fuels you even more and more, and the cycle is so real, and you can't find it. Where is it? What is causing the problem, right? You can't slow it down. So one symptom is fatigue. And if you go to the doctor and you say, I'm so tired, I don't know, I just can't keep up with my childcare, I can't go to work, I feel low, I don't want to exercise, I'm tired all the time, I wake up tired, I go to bed too tired. If the patient goes to you as a GP and kindly asks for blood, and you end up doing them, and do you see anything on the blood results, any organic cause to this?
Usually no. So I see a lot of colleagues when people come in, and what would be written in the notes would be tired all the time, and then you ask about symptoms, and often they're on, there might not be other symptoms. There might be, in some cases, symptoms that point to particular conditions. It was thyroid problems, diabetes, heart problems, whatever. But sometimes there isn't anything to point to anything. And then you proceed to do blood tests, and very often the blood test would come back normal.
Yes.
And when the bloods are normal, then what do you do next?
We discharge them and wish them good luck. A few years have to pass, and after the few years, this fatigue, this first symptom, turned into now a chronic disease with a diagnosis. Many cases is endometriosis, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and so on. But before that, there's a long period where we already are developing insulin resistance, for which we are not testing as doctors. We can't really test it within our NHS. And it's already brewing when we are very young.
We say we can't test it because we don't, the test for example, so insulin resistance, when we talk about that, most people think automatically diabetes, yes, but not linking it up with other conditions. But as we just showed you on the picture, that insulin resistance underlies all of those different conditions. So when we test for, well, there is no specific test within the NHS, yes, that we can do to test for insulin resistance. So yeah, as you said, this is brewing, and we're not giving people the right tools in the meantime to help improve their symptoms, because when the tests are normal, we just say, oh, everything's normal, bye now, or
something it's all in your head, right? So
yeah,
go home and it's all in your head. There's nothing for me to do here. There's no organic cause, but there's always an organic cause.
Because
yes,
for somebody to feel so tired, yeah, that they actually come and see a doctor for their tiredness. Yes. Like, we all feel tired sometimes, yeah, but when it's so severe that you actually go and seek medical help, we have to do something about it. But the problem is, a lot of clinicians, and we're learning this, yes, as well. We're not saying that we're doing it right. We're just saying that this is a learning process for us. And a lot of us don't don't perhaps connect all the dots because we haven't been taught this in medical school in our training.
And you can see how fatigue can come out. I don't know if you can relate, if you have other underlying chronic conditions, if you have had PTSD in your childhood, post-traumatic syndrome, where something happened to you, a trauma, and you know, all of these things are real, only we don't have the tools to help you in the NHS at this stage. This is why we can feel very dismissed, very discouraged, and even sometimes you think something is wrong with me if you're feeling those fatigues, like it has to be me. Everybody is telling me it's me. It's not you. It's not your fault. It's a complex fault from the outside into you and inside out. It's a cycle. Okay, so we are not doing you any benefits by dismissing you. We could, I think, better to say, if we don't know better, to say we just don't know. Actually, at this stage, as doctors, I don't have the right tools to tell you what it is, but I completely understand and feel that you are having these problems. But I'm just not good enough to tell you what it is. It's not in my repertoire of medical treatment formats. At least removing that stress off of our patients to know that it does exist. We just don't have resources for it. So if we show you, do we have the little... So we'll show you, we'll go back into insulin resistance a little bit more, but we want to show you what happens because this is about fatigue, and what happened with all the patients who have, we'll show you a photo, not this one, the one with our group of patients, if we have one. We don't have that on the slide.
No, not on here.
PowerPoint? Just 1 second, guys. Yes, the whole thing, yeah, here. Just want to show you once again, we have showed you the videos of what is possible, but to bring it back together. Yeah. So can you see the slides here with all the lovely people on it?
Including 2 people on this call.
Annette and Graham. So we said the central cause of insulin resistance and what happens with that in regards to fatigue. Okay, so it's in the first picture we have a doctor who developed type 2 diabetes through his training and ended up, unfortunately, very sluggish, very tired. He wasn't very comfortable with his clinical work. He just didn't feel well. And after changing his lifestyle, which we will be talking a little bit more about, he was able to shed his weight in his 50s, reverse his type 2 diabetes. The same thing happened with the Dr. Kassan family. Within 2 years, again, changing his diet and lifestyle, he's now, his hypertension and obesity just went away. This is in your 50s, right? Dear Graham has done an incredible job going from childhood obesity, where people say, well, it's, you know, it's in my genetics, it's a childhood thing. I have seen it since I was young, nothing will change. And Graham told us this, that actually you have tried everything already, right? And it just didn't work. So why in your 50s would it change if it didn't work when you had a fast metabolism, what they say, when you were young, right? But it is possible. We had a patient with ischemic heart disease who was able to come off of his medications and live his best life after he had a heart attack
and a cardiac
arrest and a small stroke, what's called a TIA, transient ischemic disease. And we've seen again over in a patient with Crohn's disease who was really fatigued, wasn't she? She wasn't able to get out of her bed. She was on 17 medications, and the more medications we put them on, the more fatigue she got. She developed inflammatory joints, hypercholesterol, her bowel operation, her bowel was resected twice through her lifetime. She had to have dilatations of her rectum. And we had a patient, after just 2 years of lifestyle changes, she was able to come off of 17 medications and only left with one, which was required for her
the side effects of all the operations that she's had in the past.
And another patient we had with multiple sclerosis, amazing Dr. Stansitz, who had a brain scan, an MRI scan, right, when she was very young in her medical school.
Yeah, she was 28.
28, and she dropped with MS. So for the next 10 plus years, she was on a lot of medication. She couldn't walk, she couldn't perform her duties and motherly duties as well to her best. And then we had a patient with rheumatoid arthritis. She's a doctor, and she realized after pregnancy, change of her lifestyle, that something is wrong and she couldn't walk any longer. What happened to all of these patients? They all changed their lifestyle and was able to go from sitting and not able to cycle for 1 minute to running a marathon, like in Dr. Stan's case. With rheumatoid arthritis, she was able to get off her medications and start doing triathlons. So often we perpetuate the belief that doctors, we always say, oh, why don't you go for a run? And then everything, you'll get the energy. No, you first have to change your diet. The diet that is unfortunately perpetuated by the West. It's not your fault again. It's the fault of our environment, what you have access to every single day. Once we are able to increase your fiber intake, which is almost impossible to find in today's supermarkets, unless you really look for it, because everything is packaged, you then will be able to address the insulin resistance, which is driven, and now we go to it, unfortunately, by processed foods that are very heavily available. So please, it's very interactive. We want to know, what did you eat? If you like, top 3 things you ate today for breakfast. If you guys just put it in the chat, it would really help. Like, what is the one dish for breakfast? Oatmeal, very good. Oatmeal from Quaker Oats with syrup, or did you put your own topping on it? And was it with dairy or was it with oat milk? With berries. Awesome, Helen. Very good. Smoothie. What was in your smoothie, Amanda? Chicken and grapes before the stock, almond milk porridge, chia seed blueberries, toasted tea cake. Oh, that's cool. What would be your soaked oats, seeds, banana, and oat and milk? Very good. Avocado, spinach, banana, and hemp. Amazing. So you have been learning quite a lot, I can see, from Annette and Graham here, which is great. These are very much aligned with whole foods. But if you really go deep down on your daily, everyday experience with what is accessible to you and what you reach for on a daily basis, and you get really honest with it, do you appreciate the difference when you're eating things that come in packages that are processed and what that means? And what are the carbohydrates that are not processed, that are real whole foods? Would you be ever like reaching for a cookie when you are tired at work? Would you make a quick dish that you bought from the supermarket for when you were busy? So if you just think about that, while we show what is the difference between the processed carbohydrates and non-processed, if you just put up that picture, if we have. So once again, it is not something that our patients are actually they're not even voluntarily eating the wrong things, right? It is so accessible to eat the wrong fuel for the mind and body that if you're not approaching it with intent and constant alert around your environment, you will end up eating some of the processed foods on the left-hand side, the processed carbohydrates. Do you let us know in the chat, do you end up at least once or twice accidentally eating these foods like chips, cookies from a package.
And I think it's also important to address that when people are feeling tired,
Yes,
and fatigued,
yes,
and they don't have the right tools or resources from their clinicians, people who are supposed to be helping them through this difficult period. And when you're already feeling very tired, you've been tired,
oh,
and
yes.
I know for me, when I've been
Yes.
tired, the last thing I want to do is take out a chopping board and, you know, cut up food and start cooking a nice meal. I want to grab something quick
Absolutely.
to give me energy.
Absolutely.
Yes, it fills me up, but I often feel worse afterwards when I just grab something quick to eat. And I know we don't really eat biscuits. A while ago, my husband brought some biscuits home, and that one morning I was feeling very you know, peckish or whatever, and I ate a few biscuits. The whole day I felt so rubbish,
Yes.
because of the sugary content, you know, the processed biscuit that I was eating. Although it gave me that instant satisfaction, yes, of fullness, for the rest of the day I felt energy-wise very drained. I had no motivation to do anything, and that was just a few biscuits.
But it gave you the rush.
Yeah,
right?
It gave me the rush for a very short period of time.
And that rush is what fuels one when they are busy or tired to reach out again to that kind of food. I mean, it has landed me in a total health crisis. So and would love to see if people do reach for it.
Yeah, it's so easy, isn't it?
You start nibbling on it.
When things are in the house and you see it around, you'd reach out for it.
But more about pasta potatoes. Yes, we will address pasta and potatoes. Keep to us. Absolutely, I love that subject. But if we just think about, I was an athlete all my life, so I came from I'm from Ukraine, and I came from a place where we were able to eat really healthily. Based on healthily means, in that context, it was just luck. But because within that context, healthy just meant I could eat things that come from the ground, from the gardens, from the nearby farms, because there wasn't so much processed packaged food accessible. It wasn't even accessible. If I wanted something sweet, I went to get a spoonful of honey, maybe once in a while. So because it wasn't accessible, I grew up eating whole foods. Now, transition me, I was an athlete, a gymnast, became a heptathlonist, and I was transferred into the world of America when I was about 13. What happened in America? Well, there was no more access to whole foods. This is just impossible to eat it. Everything was in packages, and we started eating it, and I ballooned up. Continued training, but I continued gaining weight. Now, a few years later, I went back to Slovakia to study for my medical school. Again, my weight normalized because I had no access to processed foods again, and just ate everything that came from gardens and farms. And then I came to the UK. So this is like a real life epidemiological transition. How we study epidemiology and science is by looking at different countries, and my world has carried me through. And then what happened? Well, my mom was great. She cooked all the time at home, and she was always the best mom. She never made me cook anything, but it kind of backfired because when I went to university in the UK, well, I didn't know what to cook, how to cook, what is what. So what did I start eating? Dairy products, a lot of milk, easily accessible yogurt, cheese. And somebody who was super healthy, an athlete, developed fatigue, very tired. I didn't want to get out of bed. Brain fog, impetigo, new symptoms were coming up, diarrhea turned into colitis symptoms, bloody diarrhea. 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, I couldn't come out of bed at all. I was put on steroids, I was put on antibiotics on a regular basis, but guess what? My bloods were always normal. My bloods were normal, but I was falling apart. I could barely walk, let alone run. No more triathlon, no more heptathlon, nothing. I went to the GP early on to ask about my impetigo, my skin condition, my fatigue. The result was, well, nothing really. Not his fault, no problems. This, when it went forward, where I was blown up with all the medications, multiple medications, this is when we found lifestyle medicine and understanding of the importance of food. So this is when we are talking about that it's not the patient's fault at all. It is what is around us that became normal, and why the Western lifestyle is resulting in so many patients not getting answers. So many patients are struggling and suffering every single day because the answers are not in our medications, but in what is around us, and nobody's addressing that, unfortunately. So what happened? We turn everything around. So how can we be very, very conscious of what we do every single day is very important, being very intentional in what we eat. So not only like every single meal, but also intentionally knowing when we are eating the foods that we shouldn't, and being aware of it, even if we are doing it, not to be hard on yourself, for sure, right? Mm-hmm. So if we would love to ask if you had any of these experiences where maybe you weren't sure why things are happening. Did you ever worry about a question that you didn't have an answer to, no matter how much you were digging? I would love to hear from you. And Annette says, no, Amanda, started changing the cookie challenge, biscuits, and I'm now trying to make my own using banana. That's it, Amanda, that's it. You have to use your own. If you make that cookie from the things that you know that are home, you know the ingredients of it. When you buy it out and the instruction list in the back is longer than the whole cookie jar itself, then something is wrong, right? It's like really putting diesel into a gasoline car or gas into petrol into a diesel car. If we don't put the right fuel in it, the outcome is fatigue, chronic disease, and the Western health problems.
And I think addressing Charlie's earlier question about processed foods. So I want you to think about a potato. Mm-hmm. A potato you see, mm-hmm. That is unprocessed. You can boil it, you can bake it, and eat it. That's fine. That's an unprocessed potato. Mm-hmm. When you buy a potato, you know this is a potato. When you turn it into chips, that's been processed. Mm-hmm. When you turn it into crisps, it's been processed. And let's see, apple, orange, these are unprocessed foods.
You're an out of potatoes.
When we squeeze this into apple juice, that becomes processed. When we change this into orange juice, that becomes processed. So what is pasta made of? Can you find pasta in a field, for example? Mm-hmm. So you can't find pasta on the field. No. Because pasta is made from
wheat.
Yeah.
Well, depending on what. Yeah.
So there are now many types of different pastas available. and there are bean pastas, there are, you know, they are still processed because they don't come like this on a farm. Does that kind of answer your question, Charlie?
So
does it make it any clearer for you?
So with regards to processing and potatoes and pastas, whilst they are processed, we need to understand how much of it can be taken. So if you have pasta and a potato, a whole potato at home, and we are very anti-potato in the NHS, don't eat your potatoes, don't eat your pastas, right? But the truth is, if you eat the potato in its whole form, a sweet potato is one of the most nourishing things you can eat. Is the problem what we did to it in the West? It doesn't even look like a potato when you eat it anymore. It's in bags, right? So this is the chips full of salt and oils. That's now potato that we should be hating on, not the potato as it came out of the earth. So please do eat your potatoes in whole form, boil it in water, and top it up with an extra serving of vegetables, beans, and so on. So we have to just cover something here with regards to what we should be adding.
So in terms of why, okay, so yeah, pasta is processed. It's not, I wouldn't say it's heavily processed. You can still eat your pasta, that is okay. But understanding that knowing that it has been processed, and why generally when we talk about processed food that it should be avoided is because of all the additives and the processing that happens in the factories will create harmful substances that you then ingest.
So grains, there you go. So you can,
and it also changes how your body then processes that particular food, because when industry process food and turn it into a product that you buy, it's designed to be very palatable and easy to eat, and so you end up eating more of it, and there's more oils, more salt, more sugar to make you want to buy more of it. So yes, absolutely, Anna. Yeah. And Graham, thank you for reminding. Yes, and when you process the foods, it gets stripped of its fiber. Fiber is what we really want to encourage people to eat more of.
Oh, yeah, so let's go back to basics. So pasta, okay, you eat pasta from time to time, it's not gonna kill you, it's okay. Pasta, you know, it's not like you eat it morning like that. Put pasta aside, you can eat it when you want to. That's not the center of attention. Potato, amazing if you eat it in its whole version, right? Just don't eat it in a chip, in a bagged version. Please don't eat it out of the bag, I beg you. It is the worst thing that could have happened to that potato, okay? Like when somebody has, would you like some chips? You say, no, I don't want some chips. It's like, that's literally killing the British public chips. Okay, it's just not a thing. But potato is good when it came out of the earth. You take it out, it's like earthy, awesome, cook it in the water, great. Now let's go back to basics for what you should be eating rather than what you should be taking out. And that's what we are at. We want you to eat more of the good things and large quantities of it. So I would like to ask you first, what do you know what fiber is? This is where the medicine starts. And if you say yes, no on the side, do you know what fiber is? Yes, Helen says yes. Where can you find? Yes, Laura says. Where can you find fiber? Example. You're just seeing answers coming in. Beans and lentils, Amanda. Right. Yes, very good. Also, as Erica said, an orange, when you peel it, you have the juices and the sugars in it. And the thing that you chew is fiber, okay? When you push it through the machine where you get only the juice, you get only the sugars, not the fiber. When you have an apple, it's 3 grams of fiber. When you have a pear, it's 5 grams of fiber. Once you push it through the machine, it has no fiber. That's why we don't want you to juice. That's why we don't want you to run through good fiber, because the medicine is in the fiber. So we go back to basics. Let me ask you, do you think you know how much fiber do you eat in a day on a classic Western diet, like what your friends and family eat on a daily basis? Or no, what do you think? If you put a number in the side, we'll get an idea. If you just push it a little bit to the side so I can see the chat. 16 grams, Annette and Graham, thank you. Not enough, maybe, Puna, very good. No idea, Laura says. Okay, anybody else? Helen, what do you think? How much fiber? Just hit a number. And we have the 15 to 20, great. Can we show just how much fiber each fruit and vegetable does? Laura, no idea. Okay, this is where we have to start, okay? Forget about everything else except think about fiber intake. So Western diet, as Annette said very well, starts between 10 to maximum 20 grams if you put a few fruits in there from time to time. But when we think about the blue zones, the places where people live the longest life without chronic diseases, so people are actually dying from old age and not from side effects from heart disease, diabetes, and so on, they're eating up to 80 to 100 grams of fiber, right? 80 to 100 grams of fiber. What do you think, how much fiber do we have? I mentioned one of them in, what did I say? Maybe if you paid attention, in an apple. How much fiber do you think you get in an apple? One whole apple, let's see. Woohoo! Laura, Jane says, amazing, 3 grams. Very good, you paid attention. Amazing, Jane. So this is 3 grams. Actually, I really want to bite into this. Can I?
Yeah, go on.
You start craving the apple when it's in front of you, if you eat a lot of it. We want you to think, to increase your energy, that you have to go up to 40, 50, 60 grams of fiber a day. And how can you implement that into your day? That's the answer. That's what you want to answer for yourself, okay? And then this has to be translated into practice. But at least you have a measure. So if that's a 3 grams, and I'll eat a pear, this is amazing. It has 5 grams of fiber in it, okay? That's already 8 grams. For breakfast, we had amazing porridge, and one cup of porridge has about, how much? 5, yes, half a cup of porridge has 5 grams of fiber in it. Half a cup to 1 cup, depending on your cup. So that's 5 grams. I eat about 1.5 cups. That's already 10 grams in the morning. Sprinkle a few strawberries, or no, actually raspberries, because we learned that raspberries has 4 grams of fiber in it in a half a cup. It's insane. It's wonderful. So we get now, what, 14 grams for the morning. Then I'll eat an apple and a pear, okay? Then a banana, which I don't like, but kind of need some variety. So you kind of force that down. And then 2 oranges that are juicy and really fresh. So now we are up to 30 grams just in the before noon. And I haven't even started on my lunch yet, okay? I mean, you made an amazing lunch. What would be your lunch to increase that fiber intake?
You're putting me on the spot.
Always. She loves it.
I hate it when she puts me on the spot.
But one of the favorite, oh yeah, with the rhubarb, you had amazing mix.
Yeah, I made this salad with rhubarb, celery, and loads of chickpeas, and boiled potatoes, and I made this chimichurri sauce that I had made a while ago, but I froze it because there was just too much to use. So I just defrosted a couple of cubes just whilst the potatoes were still warm on the hob. I just kind of melted it in that, and like loads of salad leaves. I can't remember what else was in it.
So the key there, she added for lunch, not only the fibers, chickpea, 1 cup of chickpea has 9 grams of fiber in it, 9 grams of fiber in chickpea. But it also has the same amount of protein as well. So you don't have to add so much of the chicken. If you want, that's fine. But what happens when you add, instead of the chicken, your chickpeas, is that you get soluble fiber plus protein without all the side effects of what you would be eating when it was chicken and other meat sources, dairy, and so on. So now we are up to 40 grams, and we haven't even gone to our dinner, which will be like a lentil bake with zucchini. And on the side, I would eat a whole broccoli, like a whole head of broccoli. So, I mean, how much more food can you add into your life is the question. And does that sound good? Not to be a reductionist, say a yes.
Yeah, see nodding, thumbs up.
Yes,
Good.
yes. Is it good? Let's put more food in there. Like thinking, how can I, yes, Annette, thank you. Thanks, Amanda. Yes, how can I add more fiber is your question from today. And not how can I remove stuff from my life? No, I like abundance. You love abundance.
Yeah.
You love a lot of love and hugs, and food is the center of all of that. Okay. And energy comes from that community that you can share through food. And by me messing up all the time in the kitchen, she can laugh at me, we can laugh together, and then, you know, she can then take over the next stage. So it's an amazing opportunity to add abundance, add love, and always think of how we can add more. How can I add more fiber? Yes, Jane, I love adding more rather than depriving and taking away. And the truth is, yes.
Yeah, fiber. Yeah. So why is fiber so important?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So we were talking about insulin resistance earlier. And insulin resistance, diabetes, blood sugar, and fiber. When we eat food, I think we were talking about this, how science kind of looks at one thing, and we're always looking for cause and effect, and sometimes we miss the big picture. So a lot of measures that we use in medicine, measurements that we use, things to monitor, they may not necessarily reflect what is happening to us.
And clearly it's not reflecting anything because nobody's getting better. So I'm sorry, science is great, but we have to apply it in the big picture.
So when we eat fiber, we slow down the release of, okay, so this, why we say apple, not apple juice. This apple here contains a lot of water, fiber, a lot of vitamins and nutrients.
And fructose, which everybody's scared of.
Fructose, which is a form of sugar. So people, oh no, don't eat apple. And then what happens when you juice it? You take away the fiber, okay, and the fiber slows down the release of sugar into the bloodstream. And so you take away the fiber and you're left with sugary water. It's what
and what's the problem of that is because the fiber actually attaches to the phytonutrients, phytochemicals. It comes as a package, so the body extracts it off of the fiber and breaks it up into these pieces, these particles that we were talking about. But if there is no fiber, then it enters your bloodstream straight away. It goes into your bloodstream. And where does the fructose go when it goes from a juice? Do you guys know where would fructose be held? What happens to fructose when it's actually not connected to fiber? Have you ever known? No. So it's really, really scary what's going on because liver, yes, Annette, you have been listening, good. Graham, yes, wonderful. So what happens with fructose and why is it so scary when we talk about fructose and processed food? Fructose and all kinds of sugars, especially in processed foods, are hidden. And when you eat a lot of it, when you eat a little bit, you crave more of it and more of it. And the fructose goes straight into your liver. And you know why so many, I don't know if your family and friends have fatty liver disease? even though they're not alcoholic. Have you heard of the term fatty liver disease? Have you guys? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Did you think that it's only due to alcohol? What do you think? Only alcohol? Yeah? I can see. Yes. No. Helen says no. What else is it due to fatty liver disease, Helen? What do you think? No, not sure. Fatty liver disease is the first cause of insulin resistance because the fructose in children nowadays, we can see due to the processed foods, fructose goes straight into your liver, and there it cannot be stored as glucose is. It's stored in fatty liver. It forms non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. In children, in America, there are more and more children who are having liver transplants because they eat so much processed foods, Coca-Cola, Oreos, cookies, and many, many more chocolates and ice creams, processed dishes that look good but full of fructose that are hidden in there. When the industry makes your dish and it looks good.
Yeah, absolutely. Tooth decay as well. That is a big problem. And another scary thing is when we eat fructose, the brain doesn't register it as calorie intake.
Yes.
So even when you're eating, your brain doesn't think you've eaten.
Yes.
So you want to eat more food.
Very scary.
And linking back to the gut, and when we talk about fiber, why it's so important, yes, we want whole foods for the fiber to slow down the release of blood sugar into the sugar from the foods into the bloodstream, and also to actually feed our gut bacteria. Because our gut bacteria is so important in our overall health. Not only is it important for the gut itself, for our digestive system, but also our immune system, our mental health, and general overall inflammation. Level of inflammation.
So we're gonna have to wrap it up at 1 o'clock, but there's so much more we wanted to tell you about insulin resistance and how it works and the background of that. But we want to know from you, after this talk, how are you going to add more fiber to you? And please, 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 Linda, if you start from even you as also, how could you add more in your life right now? And Christine, and if you mention it, I don't know, are people allowed to, if they want to, say it out loud, or if they wanted to?
What I'll do just for this bit is I will officially say thank you very much for what you're doing, and we're going to go to a Q&A now, so I will take it off being recorded. I've followed the experts, I know how you do it, and then that gives people an opportunity to open up and have a bit more of a discussion. If they wish to put their cameras on and their mics on, then they can. But ladies, we've learned so much, thank you so much, and I'm sure that anybody who watches the video who has questions relating to this can get in touch with us at info@Salus anyway, and anything we can't answer we'll forward to you. And the other thing to say is that we're hoping to have another guest speaker at some point in time next month, which is a very slightly different guest speaker. We're aware that some of you may need to go because you might be on a lunch break and you've got to go back to work. So apologies that you didn't get to do a little bit of a Q&A if you've got to go. If you're able to stay, please stay. But thank you all to everybody for joining us, and thank you very much to the ladies for a wonderful session so far.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.